Okay.
Okay.
No, no, they are saying please ask the host to give you permission to record.
Oh, let me go to the settings.
Well, these guys are still not ready.
All right, go ahead. It's recording, so
okay.
I don't know how you share that, but
okay. Welcome. Good afternoon, those in Banjul, and good morning to the folks in the New York area and Washington, D.C. We're here today to invited you to this press conference today to discuss the Supreme Court's judgment on the diaspora voting and the rights of the executive members to be part of the political process. The judgment was done on Wednesday, and we have invited the Gambian press so that at least we can discuss this issue. We have on the panel Jegan Gray Johnson, is in South Africa, and Coach Pasamba Jau in Washington, D.C. I will open up by asking the Jegan Gray Johnson to issue the statement, and then it will be followed by Coach Pasamba Jau, and then we can open it up to the press to ask questions. On that note, I'll invite Jegan Gray Johnson to give the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Uncle Sidi, for that. And thank you very much, colleagues, members of the media fraternity, members of the Right to Know grouping, members of GAMCORD, and also, you know, all the supporters in the diaspora. So the statement I'm going to read we'd already initially. I'm hearing. I'm hearing.
The media guys, there is a background noise. If you can mute yourself,
please.
If we can mute, if we're not talking, kindly mute ourselves. Thank you. All right, wonderful. Thank you very much for that. So as you know, on the 27th of January 2021, the Supreme Court of the Gambia made a landmark ruling on the legality of the Elections Amendment Act 2015, which barred Gambians in the diaspora from members of executive committees of political parties. It also reaffirmed the second principle under Section 39 of the Constitution, which guarantees the right of every eligible Gambian residing in and outside of the country to vote in elections and referenda. The ruling is a victory for democracy and a demonstration of the credibility and the independence of the judiciary, uphold the tenets of the Constitution and the respect for the rule of law. We decided to take the Independent Commission, IEC, and the Gambia government to court on the 11th of September 2020 to have our rights and the rights of over 250,000 Gambians living abroad to fully participate in the electoral processes of our country, which were denied since 1997, when the Second Republic came into being, upheld and reaffirmed. The Supreme Court yesterday granted us that request. The ruling has far-reaching implications for democracy and popular participation. It means that there are greater possibilities for all Gambians to take an active role in nation building through the most fundamental of rights, the right to vote, and take up roles and positions of leadership at the political level. Now, in the same vein, we were not successful in obtaining a ruling on the issue of political party discrimination. We had asked the court to pronounce on the decision to increase the political party registration fees for new political parties, as was done under the 2015 Elections Amendment Act under the former President Jammeh and promoted and effected under President Barrow, which we believe is illegal because of its arbitrariness, illogical, and inconsistent application. The rule of the $1 million registration fee is only enforced on new parties. Older parties are exempt. However, the Supreme Court has decided not to rule on this because it does not have the jurisdiction to make such a determination. We believe that the door has been left open for further legal exploration by respective political parties who feel that they are unjustly penalized for wishing to register a political party in the country. We encourage them to test this assumption in the High Court. Nevertheless, we believe that the ruling by the Supreme Court Are you able to hear me? Sorry.
Go ahead. I've muted.
I can hear you.
So nevertheless, we believe that the ruling by the Supreme Court affirmed the rights of the diaspora to vote and also seek and uphold leadership positions in any political party of its choosing is a historical milestone for all Gambians. We must now take the advantage of this opportunity and endeavor to involve ourselves, all of us, fully in the political processes of the country. It is also a strong precedent, we believe, for the African continent and her citizens, many of whom face the same challenges of electoral injustice and discrimination, simply because their conditions, by choice or by necessity, led them to leave their country of origin to reside abroad. That's the end of the statement, which was issued by the plaintiffs and also, again, put together and presented to you by RIGHT2KNOW and GAMCORD. Obviously, as you know, the plaintiffs in the case were Mr. Bakary Daba, former Vice President and Minister of Finance and leader of the Gambia for All political party, Mr. Chernanjai, who's a businessman and president of Songhai Development Company, lives in Texas, Pasamba Jau, who's on this conference call, who's one of the prominent members of Duga, myself of R2K, and Mr. Sidi Sane. As I said, all of us are members of GAMCORD. Our lawyer was Mrs. Hawasisa Sabali, who we are eternally grateful to, who has championed this fight with dignity and dedicated professionalism. And obviously without her, I don't think this victory would have been realized. So to her, we're extremely grateful. And obviously, as I said again, to the diaspora and all of you out there that have showed us the support and encouragement to actually take on this mighty task. So on that note, I'll just say thank you very much. And I'll hand over back to Uncle Sidi Sane, who's chairing this press conference, for him to take us further through this program. Thank you.
Okay. Now, before I open it up to the press to ask questions, I would like to invite Coach Pasamba Jau to say a few words before we open it up to the press for questions.
Well, thank you very much, Uncle Sidi. Thank you very much to the press, and congratulations to all Gambians. This was done not for ourselves, but for Gambia. It is a fact that we cannot all go to the courts. Some people will have to take the responsibility and do it on behalf of everybody. And it is safe to say, one can argue that we've moved from the pavements to the courthouses. Because for the past 22 years, Jammeh's rule, we are marching across the globe for democracy and human rights. It is sad that it had to come to this, because this government was supposed to make all the necessary reforms that would have taken care of all these problems. But nonetheless, like Jagan said, this is a victory for democracy, especially the freedom of the judiciary, which had been under the clutches of dictatorship for a very long time. There was something that somebody said to me. Well, have you realized that you guys have now given Jammeh an opportunity to be an executive member of the APRC? And my response was, it was Jammeh who tried to deny Gambians the opportunity to fully participate in the democratic process. Today, he has become a beneficiary of the effort of those diasporians he tried to stop from participating. To end, there was something that Kennedy once said, that is, the rights of every man is diminished when the right of one man is threatened. So the objective of our fight had been and will continue to be the unfettered respect for the rights of every single Gambian, irrespective of your political orientation or affiliation. And this fight will continue. And we hope that the National Assembly and the executive will have the courage and do what is right by the people by ensuring that the necessary reforms are done through the legislative means so that people, citizens, will not be forced to resort to legal actions. With that, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Coach Pasamba Jau. I would now like to invite the press to ask questions. I would only caution that let us be very brief and pointed in our questions so that we will be able to, answer them properly. Also to caution you that we don't have any lawyers on this panel. So therefore, some of these legal issues, I don't think that we are in any position to respond to them, except to say that the Supreme Court of the Gambia has ruled in favor of diasporans being extended the right to exercise their political judgments in the affairs of the country. How that is done and in the manner in which it's going to be done by the IEC, which is the authority responsible, will be up to them. And the issue of resources, again, the logistics, and how it's going to be done, that will be left up to them. I hope that we will be able to answer, though, the questions that are directly on our corners. But otherwise, I would like you to limit your questions to the non-legal issues confronting us as far as this particular decision is concerned. On that note, I would invite, I cannot see anybody out there, but
I think Yusuf Taylor has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. I can't see them. So, okay, please.
And people can unmute themselves too. There are some who've muted. You can unmute, but please, the background noise, just be very mindful of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Yusuf Taylor for Gynaco Online News. My first question is, what next now? Because IEC have put out their calendar. They said diaspora registration is there. As far as we understand, that has not changed. And what next now? Because it seems as if the whole lawsuit which you have done, it's almost inconclusive. The response from the courts leaves everything in thin air. So what next now? Is it the voter registration? How does the diaspora proceed going forward with this?
Okay, thanks. I mean, I can answer, and I think others, Pasamba and Uncle Sidi, can also, I think, respond. Thanks, Yusuf, for that question. I think it's a fair question. It's relevant because that's the whole essence of us going to court, is to gain traction and operationalize that ruling, right? But we're not the ones to operationalize that ruling by virtue of the fact that it is very clear what the court had stated. The court did two things on Thursday. One was to declare that it was unconstitutional and illegal to bar Gambians living abroad from having a seat or occupying a position of a party at the executive level. I think that is clear. Then the second thing that they did, and I think we need to be very clear here, the Constitution never said that Gambians and the diaspora couldn't vote. In fact, it's the opposite. It was very clear. It says every Gambian, once you've attained the age of 18, and there's certain prerequisites that you've satisfied, you can vote. It doesn't say that you have to reside in the country in doing so. So we sought an affirmation from the court to affirm that right. And the courts have done that. So the what next, I think really the ball is squarely in the hands of all the stakeholders involved, to be led by the IEC. to do the right thing. I think they've been found wanting because they have presided over the wanton disenfranchisement of hundreds of thousands of Gambians that don't live in the country for the simple reason that they don't live there. And secondly, also for the perceived political influence and power that a certain person in an executive position of power, namely the president, had decided and signaled that this wasn't going to happen, and it didn't happen for 5 election cycles. So the what next is important. We hope that the National Assembly, together with the diaspora, together with civil society, and together with the IEC, can work together to basically bring this into fruition and into realization. There are many steps that we need to take, that the IEC must take, but maybe just to, as I sign off quickly here in answering your question, the IEC needs to realize that the courts have once again pointed the way that the issue of elections, integrity, electoral justice is everybody's business. And as a result, even though they're the independent regulator, the elections regulator in getting this thing done, they cannot do it in isolation. They must seek partnership, they must consult, and they must bring to the fore the stakeholders in this particular exercise. So to answer your question, it boils down to the IEC deploying its mandate and doing it correctly. It cannot do it alone, it is obvious. It's going to need some help. And even those of us that have taken the IEC to court have, even before this, stretched out our hand in partnership and said to them, we don't want to go to court, we can work with you, we can get this thing done. And we're stretching our hand out to them again, because the IEC doesn't belong to the commissioners, it belongs to all of us, to say that we've got this ruling, our rights have been affirmed, what can we do together to ensure that every Gambian, regardless of where you reside, within reason, is given that primary right to determine how they wish to be governed and how they wish to be represented. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jagat, if I may just add, the question is absolutely important. What is next? First, we've done one aspect of it, at least 2. Like you said, Jagat, we've engaged these people to make sure that this was a reality. And when we saw that they were waffling, we decided to go to the referee in that country, that is the courts. And they have really affirmed our position that all Gambians, irrespective of where they live, should be able to participate in all elections, including referendums. Now, if you look at the budget that was just passed, which is now law, there is allocation for diaspora registration and participation in elections. So meaning that if the IEC does not carry that, they would have been violating the laws of the Gambia, because when the budget is passed, it becomes the law of the land. So what we'll call on everybody to do, let's not rest on our laurels and say, you know what, the IEC has, the Supreme Court has decided, let's sit back. No, but all stakeholders, political parties, civil society, journalists, and everybody should participate fully. We have to be very proactive in ensuring that all rights are respected without hindrance. And to the political parties, maybe it is time for them to stop being spectators in this issue, because at the end of the day, it is their supporters who are spread across the globe. We contribute to diaspora. 48% GDP, which is more than any other community in the world. Now, what we contribute towards our GDP, over $500 million. And if you do capture everything, is close to $1 billion every year. That's what we send back. So we cannot be ignored. We must not be ignored, and we will not be ignored. Thank you.
Just to follow up on that question, are you saying that you have been trying to engage the IEC? They have not been playing ball, and that has forced you into this lawsuit, point 1. And then secondly, tell us, what is your engagement currently with IEC? How has it been? Is it that they are not playing ball to go ahead, or are you not seeing enough progress to tell you that registration will be on track? Because it's important for us to know, like you've highlighted, IEC has a huge role to play here, and their calendar is out, the budget is there. But your discussions with them, my understanding first, I want you to just clarify. Is it that you, from what I'm hearing you say and what you've just said, is it that the IEC has not been playing ball when you have been engaging them, and that is why you went to court? First. Then secondly, give us a flavor of your current back and forth or consultation with IEC. I rest my questions. Those are the only 2 points that I want to highlight.
Jagan, can you take that one?
Sure. Yeah, okay. Thanks for that, Flex. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying that our engagement with the IEC has been based on good faith and goodwill. Everything that we did with the IEC was transparent. And I'll give you several examples. We started engaging with the IEC as far back as 2019. In June, we had a conversation informally with them with regards to, issues around the Constitutional Review Commission and changes therein, and issues of that nature. And again, nothing was concrete at that time, but we were certainly expressing our interest, and even the submissions that we made, even though it wasn't to the to the IEC, it was through the CRC on the composition, electioneering, election management, etc. So there was that discussion that we had. Then we narrowed our discussions down to specifics, whereby in August of the same year, 2019, I had a personal conversation with Mr. Njai, the chairman of the IEC, of which I was accompanied to that meeting by Mr. Son Benga, who was there as a witness for us to at least deliberate, one, on the challenges which we appreciated that the IEC faced, and then secondly, knowing fully well that the interesting thing is dates on calendars are closer than they usually seem. And we knew that 2021, even though we were in 2019, 2021 was around the corner, and it was a daunting task for the IEC to start dispatching its mandate and ensuring that a whole plethora of things needed to be done before the registration period started. In that meeting, we had talked about all the possible challenges, and not only the challenges, we had offered solutions. Not only did we do that, we recorded our meeting with the chairman of the IEC, if you recalled, and you can go back to our Right to Know page, where we made a statement and said that we were quite worried, specifically on these 2 cases, the disenfranchisement issue and also the discrimination against against the diaspora to take part and be representatives in executive committees of political parties, and also the political party discrimination. And we made that in a letter which we communicated to the chairman of the IEC. We also shared that communication with all the R2K membership. And this was in August. In November in 2019, we met, I believe, Flex, you might have been in that meeting. We had a meeting with the IEC, the European Union, political parties, etc. And we talked about these very issues, including the possibility of working together, of conducting an external census to ensure that we know how many Gambians that are registered abroad are interested in voting. So that way we can cost the exercise. And that way we'll know exactly what's before us and be able to now include that in a realistic roadmap moving forward. That was in November. We had a discussion. The IEC agreed that they'll get back to us. Nothing came of it. They refused to respond to our letters. One of the excuses was that the letter wasn't signed. In this day and age of technology, etc., when we send emails, we're not expecting that it's going by post or whatever. But anyway, that's the excuse that they had eventually when they did get back to us verbally. Notwithstanding the fact, again, there was an attempt in February of 2020 to have a conversation because we had drawn up a roadmap, at least a draft, which we can share. We can share all of these things with the press to say that this is what we can do, this is how we can work together, etc. So in a nutshell, we have tried everything that was humanly possible to be able to ensure that our rights are respected, our rights are accorded, and our rights are given to us as far as voting is concerned and representation, and it came to nothing. And so we had to go to the courts. There were no two ways about that. The second part, and then I'll let Uncle CD and Coach respond to this if they want to add on, is that the short answer to this is we have not heard from the IEC since the ruling. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing because the ruling only happened less than 48 hours ago, and so maybe they're gathering their thoughts. But again, which is why we're using this platform, and we will continue to engage with the IEC because the IEC is not an enemy to us. The IEC is an institution that belongs to us, that we must work together with, that we have a responsibility and also a right to ensure that it functions properly, that it represents and serves us as the stakeholders, broadly as citizens of the country, and more narrowly and specifically as electorate and potential electorates. So we will continue to engage with the IEC. We will do that with still the goodwill and also the trust and also the determination to make sure that we have a free, fair, credible elections of which everybody that is eligible to vote is given the chance to do so. Thank you.
Okay. Jagan, that was very important point that you have made, which I would really just like to reiterate, and that is our relationship with the IEC and also other government agencies. We must be seen as partners, not as enemies. But unfortunately, our experience in the past has been that there is that antagonistic approach to some of these officials, which I think is rather unfortunate. And now that the decision has been made by the Supreme Court, our next move will be to approach the IEC, try to get as much information as possible with regards to the preparedness and readiness for the elections in December of this year, and also to discuss the methods that they're going to adopt in making sure that the decision of the court is implemented. Coach, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just a short thing. You see, the issue here, even if the IEC were to be responsive, diasporas have waited for too long to be enfranchised. And I think it is just proper that we take every recourse possible to make sure that nobody is going to come at the 11th hour and give us a flimsy excuse. There are too many Gambians in the diaspora, too many. At least 10% of the Gambian population live in the diaspora. I don't need to go into the numbers of how much we contribute again. But we are also very active in the political dispensation in that country. Most political parties are sponsored by diasporas. The UDP just had a congress. When they gave their financial report, 63% of their resources came from Gambians in the diaspora. So we cannot continue to play second fiddle to anybody or to nehal, if you want to use that word, anybody for our rights. We will take every measure, are respected, unfettered. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, there is Buba Gajigo from.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Mine is actually not a question. So the one who did the introduction, I don't know whether it's the network. I was not getting. So I don't know whether you can just do a recap of what he was saying, because I did not get a lot of things that he said.
Yeah, that was the statement. I think we can send it to you.
Okay, I will.
I think it was already sent to the media, isn't it?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but it can be sent to you. Yeah, that's a statement.
How are you going to send it to our numbers or
Where are you? Where are you?
Kerfado.
Okay, well, we have your email address.
And also, maybe Buba, what you can do is just write your email address in the text message.
Okay, let me do that.
I will send you a copy.
Yeah, just write it in the message box. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
There are no questions I can ask.
Okay, well then.
That's Yusuf Taylor. Flex has another question.
Flex.
Okay, Yusuf always has questions.
Well, as you know, these are things which I am interested in: diaspora, enfranchisement.
Yeah.
So we look at this thing significantly. Probably when I was on the other side back then, I probably would have been on the same how do they call it, press conference alongside you guys. But now we're here.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I guess that would be it. We thank you very much, ITV.
No, Flex has a question. Flex still has a question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Flex.
If I could be the devil's advocate this time, to test the point which you've highlighted, and Jegan has reiterated it in your statement about the amount, registration amount.
Yeah.
Certainly, if we want to take it back, I think what I want to understand is that the registration amount is something which we expect the laws to be reviewed periodically, not so. Right? But then the logic is that because of those parties who have been registered already did not pay that 10,000, then the other parties which are now coming new are being discriminated. And I wanted to test that assumption. Because for me, as I understand it, the law is such where we have a registration amount. And if you are registering within this period, and this is the registration amount, you have to pay for that. And then if a few years later, the amount is increased, my issue is the question about the fairness of the amount, or if they bring a new amount, is it proper for us to go, for the IEC to go back and then everybody who had registered with a lesser amount has to pay the rest, or they are discriminated? So I'm trying to challenge your I'm trying to test the point which you raised there, which is about the political parties and that registration amount. That the new parties are only paying, and then the other parties are being paid. I want to question it, whether you can respond to what I'm trying to highlight here.
If I may take that, Uncle Sidi, and then
yes, go ahead,
Jegan can do the cleanup. First, let's look at the intent of the 2015 Election Act. It was not meant to enhance democracy.
So, can you, Coach, can you handle the rest? I have something to attend to.
Yes, okay. Definitely. Okay. So, yeah, like I was saying, Yusuf, let's look at the intent of the 2015 Election Act. It was not meant to enhance democracy. It was meant to curtail the participation of citizens in the democratic process. And this was why the APRC government tried to force presidential candidates to pay $1 million to run for office, which was later reduced to 500,000. And of course, the National Assembly was reduced to 50,000 because the National Assembly members who passed it knew that it was going to be tough for them to be able to come up with 100,000 or whatever they were asked to pay. When this government that we have today, the government of Adama Barrow, the coalition, one of their primary arguments was for electoral reforms, and that was to change these laws that we are fighting in the courts today. Because to them, at the time, they saw these laws as retrogressive and laws that were here to stifle people's participation in the process. Why should anybody have to pay $1 million to form a political party? That is a fundamental question that we must ask ourselves. What is the reasoning behind it? Why was it convenient for politicians, the political parties that are in existence, the National Assembly especially? Because when this government came, the first thing that they did was to ask the National Assembly before it was dissolved to reverse the fees for the National Assembly election from 50,000 to its original price, I think, of 5,000. Why was that done? It was convenient for the National Assembly members then to do that because it was in their interest. Now, what I believe is that the 1 million continues to be a hindrance to the democracy that we are trying to build. And of course, you cannot retroactively apply the law and say that, you know what, if it is 1 million, come back, a party like, say, like DOI that was formed in 86,
exactly,
and say you must pay 100,000. Maybe when it was formed, there were no fees to be paid. Or UDP that was formed 26, 27 years ago and say do the same thing. The issue at the end of the day, Flex, is every democracy must make the participation of people in the process less cumbersome. We did not defeat Yahya Jammeh to restrict people's rights to participate in the process. We defeated Yahya Jammeh to open up the democratic space so that everybody, irrespective of who you are, as long as you're qualified Gambian to be able to participate, should be able to participate in the process fully. And this is the process. It's a matter of what is right and not what is convenient. Jagat.
Yeah, I'm on now. Yeah, no, I think really you've actually made the point, and really this is what we are arguing. In very simple terms, is to basically ask the court, even though the court didn't rule on it because they didn't have the jurisdiction to do so, but I think they left the door open to say, go to the right, arbiter of justice, which is the High Court, and let them make a decision. And I think certainly this is something that could be tested, and it could be tested on various fronts, which is, we made the argument earlier. At the risk of boring you or whatever, just very quickly, what we were saying was that, one, the decision to enforce this new registration fee was not based on logic, was not based on the fact that it emanated, as the Constitution states, it should emanate from the elections regulator, which is the IEC. We know that. The Electoral Amendment Act did not emanate from IEC. The Electoral Amendment Act 2015, which was then carried over and firmly implemented selectively, by the way, because they did some selective amendments by President Adama Barrow, emanated from Yahya Jammeh's State House. We know that. So one of the arguments that we're also saying is, in crafting the law, the intentions were that it was designed to basically constrict political participation. And, to use a term that we've used over and over again, when this happened, they were pricing out political party participation. That's what they were doing. They were pricing you out. So we were saying that the intent is wrong. Not only is the intent wrong, it is also demonstrates an uneven playing field. You cannot talk about an IEC that believes in integrity, fair play, and a level playing field, when from the onset of the race, the deposits differ by such a huge margin, 100,000 and $1 million seat. It's a major difference. And you cannot necessarily come out with a reasonable explanation as to such a gap. We know that it does not augur well for popular participation. It doesn't augur well for pluralism. It doesn't augur well for, again, at the end of the day, political parties largely that are representatives or led by youth and women, people on the margins, etc., because it's down to money politics. That's what it is. And we're also saying at the end of it, if you take all of those things away, the question then that we are asking is that you cannot possibly justify, equal and fair treatment in this process as enshrined in the Constitution for all, whilst at the same time picking and choosing who pays what and how they paid, etc. So those are the problems that we're having. But having said that, and I think I'm quite comfortable to speak for this group, we don't intend to take that particular case any further. I think it is now down to the political parties themselves who feel that, this is just, and it's a matter of principle. We were hoping that the older political parties, which is interesting, that didn't have to pay the $1 million, that weren't directly affected, but could have actually shouted at the top of their lungs in the interest of consolidating good governance, democracy, and fair treatment for their compatriots, whether they are in opposition or they don't agree with their ideology, it doesn't matter. This is about the national interest. This is about how our electoral processes and our elections and our governance and democracy is actually articulated and constructed. And I was hoping that they would have come to the forefront to have actually batted for their colleagues that are now being discriminated and penalized. That hasn't happened. We decided to do that. But I think we've gone so far in this fight along this road. I think that with the door open, we are hoping that all political parties, not only the ones that are affected, but the ones that are not directly affected. All of us are indirectly affected in one way or another, but the ones that don't have to pay the 1 million, the existing party before the new parties came in, should also step to the plate and show some degree of solidarity, consistency, and a principled stance against the discrimination. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jagan. I just want to add that I implore the political parties, particularly the older ones, as you have said, that would take this the step further by challenging this particular provision of the Act. And I think that it is now up to them, really. We have done what we could from this end, but the rest remains with them. And we do encourage them to really take up some of these issues urgently. Do we have any more?
One last question. If nobody else, let me give my partners, my colleagues, any other person from the media a chance. I have one last question.
Go ahead.
Okay, my last question is on the reasons for the judgment, which if you look at, I read the judgment, and it says, reasons for the judgment will be handed down by this court in due course, a one-liner. And that has been the same in the court case, another Supreme Court case, which has, they've just handed out a judgment also similarly without much reasons. What's your take on this issue? The fact that your judgment has been handed out to you, you've accepted some of them we've seen what you've written on the press release, but obviously there are no reasons as of yet.
Well, please, Flex, I think like we would have loved to have the reasons given to us, but I think maybe they decided that maybe I just don't want to speak for them. I'm just speculating here that, listen, we may not have time, and due to the abundance of caution, and the timeliness of some of these issues, let's make the ruling. Because at the end of the day, what is most important is to say whether you agree or not agree. Because the other thing is just a bunch of legal jargons and all that. Because I don't think it would be anything that anybody can do to challenge. I don't think you can. Can you appeal the Supreme Court? You'll have to go to, So, but when that comes, people can do that. But at the end of the day, all that matters to us for now is that at least there is a clear ruling that, you know what, this is something that needs to happen. This is something that needs to happen. Now, when they come with the reasons, and that will be another issue. We can debate it for all it takes. But as far as I'm concerned, it is inconsequential for now.
Considering that time is of the essence, your registration has a deadline and a date. And by the time registration is over, registration is over.
But yeah, Flex, I see your point and I see what you're saying. I can let you finish. Do you want to finish, and then
Go ahead.
No, Flex. I was asking Yusuf, Flex, do you want to finish? Because I think I interrupted you.
No, that's it. I just wanted to, because I know Coach was saying that he was kind of alluding to time not being an issue, and I kind of see things.
Yeah.
That's why.
I see your point. I think your question is pertinent. However, I don't think we are in a position to answer that question. We're not the ones that are actually making the ruling here. We're not the court. I think it's the court that would answer that. But let me say this. And it had a reference to partly what next and also partly what is possible. And I think that's what you're looking at, the implementation aspects of it and what are the reasons, and can the IEC or the Gambia government, because remember, it wasn't only the IEC, it was also the Gambia government, the Attorney General was sued. Can they seek for a review of this? My understanding is that yes, they can. That's their legal prerogative to do that. Would they be advised? Would it make sense for them to do that? I don't think it would, obviously, as one of the plaintiffs in this particular case. But I think all Gambians should be concerned if the Gambia government, together with the IEC, or one of them decides, which is unlikely, but it's possible, to seek for a review. Because again, it will demonstrate the tacit lack of political will to do the right thing. It will demonstrate, to me at least, that the Barrow administration is as complicit, or if not worse, than the Jammeh administration in extending and making sure that our democratic rights and the tenets as stated in the Constitution is respected. But again, and thankfully too, we've got an independent judiciary. We have a fairly vibrant and outspoken civil society, although sometimes I think we should be more outspoken than we have been. And we have a judgment. And there are consequences to the contempt of court. And as you and I well know, whoever is at the helm of that particular institution will have to deal with those consequences. We haven't gotten to that level yet. Let us see, once the registration process started, whether the diaspora will be included in it. And if they don't, then again, we have the prerogative to go back to the courts and raise the alarm and alert them that there is possible, disregard and contempt taking place here. And then they will have to come with a ruling as far as that's concerned. So yes, the process is not necessarily 100% finalized, although on the face of it, it should. This is largely a rights issue. Partly political, but mainly also extremely constitutional. So it's pretty clear cut where they've gone wrong, where they've been slapped on the wrist, and where also on our same, in the same vein, where we've been told that the door's open for other avenues in another court to explore some of the other prayers that we made to the courts. So I think this is, almost at the end of this process, as far as the diaspora is concerned. We could be at the beginning of another process if the political parties choose to trigger that genesis. If they don't, it is what it is. But for us, as far as we are concerned, I think this is a new beginning. There is, a platform and a springboard that we'll be able to at least leap from and then start to do what is right, which is the right to vote, which was denied by us for 2 decades and 4 years. Almost 25 years down the line. So with that, I hope I tried to answer the question as much as I could. Apologies if you didn't get the clarity that you needed, but I think over time, the courts would be able to issue the detailed judgment and their reasons for it. And then we will see whether we'll have a reaction from the defendants or not. And for us, we are going to go ahead, full steam ahead. And I think, as I said, day before yesterday was a victory for democracy, was a victory for all, especially the diaspora. And we're going to basically ride on that momentum and continue to do the right thing and to get the right result and the right outcome moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jegan. And also FlexDan, thank you for the questions that you've asked. We hope that we've been able to answer some of them to your satisfaction. And on that note, I would like to take this opportunity to, on behalf of our other colleagues who are not present here today, the Bakari Bunja Davo, Cherno Njai, And on behalf of Jegan and Coach and myself, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you once again, ITV and all those press officers, journalists who were present today. And on that note, we hope to see you very soon with perhaps another good news for the Gambia and our quest for a united country. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And thank you to iAfrica for broadcasting this live.
Yeah, Lamin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lamin. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.